hang on. Let me make sure my hair doesn't look stupid.
Okay. Yeah, let me make sure your hair doesn't look stupid.
Hey.
I'm John.
And I'm Ann.
And this is John and Ann's Wrestling Podcast.
Hi, welcome back to John and Ann's Wrestling Podcast, the podcast where John and Ann talk about wrestling.
Yeah, and the only podcast where John and Ann talk about wrestling. But there's a lot of knockoffs.
There are, but they have different names, so it's not us.
Yeah.
That's how you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, we didn't do this last week because...
You're not crazy. We just weren't there.
We didn't do it just because.
If you were questioning reality, you're like, was I miss it? Was it there? It wasn't there.
Basically, no one pays us to do this, so if we have a lot going on in our lives, we don't.
Yeah, we had a lot going on.
We had a lot going on. We have a lot going on all the time, but we've decided to make it work.
Yeah, we've decided that for you, the fans, we're doing it.
We're going to push
you guys,
through.
You people, each and every one of you makes it, important for us.
I like that you did this 3 times, which is probably the number of people we'll have watching this, so that's perfect.
You think we're going to have 3 whole people?
I don't know.
Wow. All right. Well, anyway, a lot of stuff happened while we were gone. We're not really going to talk about all of it.
We're not going to talk about all of it because we trust that you live in the world, too.
Yeah.
And that you're aware of most of it. So we're just going to talk about the things we want to talk about because that's why people come to us.
Yeah.
Hang on. You got a little dust bunny on your microphone. That's how long we've been off the air, folks. There's like dust on the mic. Wow.
An old tome.
Yeah. Now let's get to chit-chatting about the chit-chat. I was trying to think of a cute phrase. Anyway.
There's no cute way to talk about wrestling, okay? It's hard.
Yeah, this ain't ballet.
Yeah, even though that is the most... I was going to say ballet is probably the most accurate thing to compare it to because it's, physically telling a story with your body. It's really physically demanding and hard to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what do we have? We have the New Japan Cup is something I've been following. It's great whenever I watch New Japan because I feel like it's just me. Even though it is like the second biggest or one of the 2 or 3 biggest promotions in the world outside of WWE and I guess now AEW.
Yeah.
But it is.
I mean, I've been meaning to start watching it. I have a subscription. But, it's hard to jump into something where you have no context or almost no context.
Yeah, it can be.
That's part of why we started this podcast. So people who don't know much about wrestling could listen to us talk about wrestling because I don't know as much as you.
Yeah, well, you know a lot now.
I was going to compare myself to other wrestling fans, but really it's mainly you.
Yeah.
I feel like I know as much as most people probably.
You know a lot, and you've really, you've leveled up.
I've leveled up quite a bit.
You, in honor of Shazam, Fury of the Gods, you've leveled up.
They didn't give us any money. We're not going to say that.
No, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Go see it.
No, don't. They haven't paid us.
You.
They haven't paid us, so we're not going to see it.
I'm just doing it out of pity.
Did you see it?
I did see it.
He saw it.
It wasn't exactly packed.
Were the gods furious?
A couple of them were upset.
But were they furious?
At least one of them was.
All right. Well, then I guess they've technically met
Lucy Liu was pretty upset. She was pretty pissed.
Okay. I guess they've met the promise that they set out.
Yeah. There were
they
gods.
Fulfilled the promise. All right. So now you watch the New Japan Cup.
I watched the New Japan Cup.
This is the thing about New Japan. They have a lot of tournaments, do they not?
They do have a lot of tournaments.
And this is part of why I find them intimidating because it just seems like if you're going to watch one, you got to watch them all.
Well, also if you're looking to follow women's wrestling, New Japan would not be the one to jump into because they don't have what they do have and what they're trying to integrate more of is Stardom, which is its own promotion, but they're owned by the same company. So they have like at Wrestle Kingdom now they have Stardom matches, but mostly you would probably just want to watch Stardom, which is also a great promotion.
Yes.
But I have been watching the New Japan Cup, and the tournaments can be really difficult to watch and very intimidating for people, even for me. So, I mean, I can keep up with them because I can watch things like from home. I can watch things at the gym. Most people don't watch things at home.
Yeah,
most people are watching
at the gym. Who watches anything at the gym?
No, but I mean, you can.
They put those TV screens in there just for him.
Yeah, I asked for them, so you're welcome. But they, it can be hard. The New Japan Cup is a little different than the other tournaments, though, because the New Japan Cup is a single elimination tournament. So it just has less matches, basically, because the G1 Climax, for example.
Fewer matches.
Has what?
Fewer matches.
What did I say?
Less matches.
Is that not grammatically correct at all?
No, fewer.
I mean, fewer matches is definitely grammatically correct.
Fewer
less
is when you're
is
counting.
Incorrect?
I don't think you're supposed to use less than that. I don't know. Never mind.
Well, you could say it has more
Fine,
matches.
Use whatever word you want.
Okay,
If you're going to
push
push back on me, I'm not prepared to defend this position.
Okay, great.
I wasn't prepared to defend that at all.
Okay,
I just
great.
sounded in my ear.
You thought you were just going to correct me,
I was
and that
going
was
off my ear. It sounded...
You had to trust your ears.
I do trust my ears.
Well, it had...
They're good ears.
It had not, it has not high number as matches. And so
this is how I know you're a Taurus, because me offering you a note turns into you accepting the note, but in any way other than to say my thing.
Well, I just don't know if it's. I mean,
because you just can't.
It has lesser good matches.
You just can't.
I mean, well, I'm making fun of myself. Maybe I was wrong.
All right.
We're going to have to look this up.
So there aren't as many matches in a New Japan Cup as there are in another.
Yeah, there's smaller matches, and so the G1 is a round robin tournament, right? So it's like it's like most sports where you kind of play everybody wrestles everybody, and then you accrue points, or your standings go up, and then the wrestlers at the end of the tournament with the highest amount of points, or the top of the standings, will go to a final or playoff, and then they'll have that final match, and then the winner of that wins the tournament. Whereas the New Japan Cup, it's single elimination, so you wrestle your match. If we wrestle a match, like in the G1, if we wrestle a match, then we're still both in the tournament, regardless of who wins, until the end of it.
I would win.
Regardless of who wins.
I would win.
The winner of the match notwithstanding.
Wait, you can hear that? Sorry.
But in the New Japan Cup, if we wrestled, the winner would go on and still be in the tournament. The loser would go home. So again, notwithstanding, it's
okay. He loves being home.
I do love being home.
Also, you can hear that.
Also not unlike a Taurus. But I mean, that's true. Tauri we love being home. Because I'm not big into zodiac stuff, but I do anytime I'm like, the Taurus description is pretty exactly me.
No one's big on the zodiac stuff until it justifies a way they want to act.
That's why I don't like it, because I had specifically a job that I'm thinking of where there were a couple of people that I worked with that were very bad coworkers, and they constantly brought up zodiac. It's like, I'm just a Leo, and I was like, I think you're full of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Taurus is pretty accurate. But anyway, so the New Japan Cup tournament. So basically, what this means is that on the G1 shows, you have to have like 5 or 6 tournament matches on every show, because they have to get through all the matches. But in the New Japan Cup, in the earlier rounds, sometimes there's like maybe 4 matches on a show. But as it goes on, there's like 2 matches per show the tournament.
That's efficient.
So it's easier to keep up with. So you basically just skip the other matches, because on a New Japan show, here's my little tip for watching New Japan. It's great. I love it. The bulk of their shows are tag matches. And so that's how a lot of the stories come out, is the tag team matches, the interactions that take place between people in a tag team match. So people will like start feuding. Somebody will get a win over somebody or a loss.
I don't think I realized that they had so many tag team matches.
That's what most of their shows are. So all their single stars will be in like tag team matches, and then so like somebody's feud will start or further from the interactions they have in the tag match, or who gets the pin or whatever. And then at the end of the show, they'll have backstage comments, and so the backstage comments will be somebody talking, furthering their feud, and that's where they do promos essentially. They don't do like in-ring promo segments the way that like MJF would. Probably part of the reason why he doesn't like New Japan.
No, yeah, he's an American wrestler.
Yeah. So anyway, so New Japan, so their shows are primarily that. So when they have tournament shows, they'll have like 5, 6 tag matches and then like 2 tournament matches. Or if it's the G1, they'll do like 2 tag matches or whatever, and then 5 or 6 tournament matches for whatever block the show is. And then, so for the New Japan Cup, it's been like a lot of shows, but there's only 2 tournament matches. So you can just skip the tag matches if you want, or just watch the backstage comments to see if there's any story development. Because the matches are good, but they sometimes, especially during tournaments, there'll be a show every day sometimes, or like 3 days in a row, 1 day off, And so they just announced the Best of the Super Juniors schedule, which is their junior heavyweight G1, essentially, their round robin tournament. And they're not going to, it's truly like 3 or 4 days in a row, 1 day off, 3 or 4 days, 1 day off. Wow. And they're packing into like 2 weeks.
And everybody has their limit, folks. Even this guy.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Even this guy has
I'll probably
a limit.
I'll probably watch the whole Best of the Super Juniors tournament. I did last year.
You did. I remember it vividly.
I did 2 years ago. I did not finish it in 2021. I fell too far behind, and it was just too many matches to catch up with. I watched the finals, though. The finals were good.
Wow. You hear that, New Japan? He can't handle it. It's too much.
I'm wearing a New Japan shirt.
It's much too much.
It's much too much.
All right. So, continue with what you were going to say about the New Japan Cup.
So, it's been fun, and what happened is David Finlay, the son of the legendary wrestler Fit Finlay, and also he's like a 3rd or 4th generation wrestler himself, David Finlay, just got a big character change that we talked about, where he turned on Switchblade Jay White, and he was this like, good, honorable, respectable, hard-fighting babyface, and then he like got this promo when Jay White left about how he's an outsider everywhere, so he joined Bullet Club and Gato, Jay White's former manager, who was Okada's former manager, who was always like the manager of like one of the top guys in the company. He decided to back David Finlay, and he's pushing David Finlay into Bullet Club as the new leader. So it looked like David Finlay was probably going to win the whole thing because he had a story, but Sonata, this other guy who's been with New Japan for a long time now and is great, and they've been like steadily pushing him. He was in Los Ingobernables de Japón, and he was like not the top guy in the stable, but he was a prominent heavyweight, and they were pushing him a lot. But he was never quite. He would get like the finals of the G1. He would get like to the far in the New Japan Cup. He would get the U.S. heavyweight title. He wasn't getting that world title. He wasn't getting that main event push. And then he lost. Then he beat Tetsuya Naito, the leader of LIJ. This guy whose shirt I have on. He beat the leader, and then he leaves LIJ. This is his home stable, his home faction for the entire time he's been in New Japan. He leaves them and he joins up with just 4 guys who are now just...
That's the name of the stable. You should
5
explain.
guys. That's the name of the faction.
The name of it is
5 guys.
Just 5 guys.
Now it's just 5 guys. So it's not the burger place.
It's not the
because I called the burger place.
No,
and
you
I asked
didn't.
if Sonata was there.
You didn't.
And they were like, I don't think so, but let me check.
They don't have a phone number.
They might.
Have you ever heard a phone ring in a 5 guys? That'd be chaos.
Hello?
Which of them would answer?
Which of the 5 guys? So we'll see, what happens here. But just 5 guys was, that was. I thought it was a big move because Sonata was like, if I stay in LIJ, nothing changes for me.
Yeah.
And so he came out. He used to have like real messy, shaggy, blondish hair and like a big messy beard. And then he came out the next day. That was the quarterfinals. He comes out for the semifinal match, fully clean shaven, very slick black hair.
Wow.
Very, very new. And he was wrestling with more urgency because usually it was like, chill.
So did you like this?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great. And I think it's like, and then he won the New Japan Cup, which I figured he would because David Finlay, it seemed like, was almost going to win, but he was having all this strife with El Phantasmo, this other guy from Bullet Club, who was like not accepting him as the leader because he only just got into the thing, and Phantasmo probably wanted to be the leader because he'd been there for longer. And Phantasmo was like, if you win the cup, you're in. And I was like, well, they're probably going to do a little Bullet Club power struggle. No need for David Finlay to win immediately. Sonata's the guy who's on the trajectory, and he's got just 5 guys behind him. So I'm very excited about this, and I think he should, because now he also wins. So winning the tournaments in New Japan is very important. It's like winning a championship. It's like the same as winning a belt.
I mean, I would
hope
so.
Sometimes it's more.
It would be really disappointing if you won a championship and they were like, this isn't that important.
They're pretty much equal. Like winning the world title winning the world heavyweight title is a big deal. But winning the G1 is just as big of a deal. And a lot of people, most people don't win it.
Yeah, I would think most people don't win it.
So they're very...
This is what defines a championship, folks.
Yeah.
It's rare and important to win a championship.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
exactly.
what's the point?
There isn't one.
No. Hear that, all you championships out there that are worthless?
Yeah, that have been watered down.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'm excited for this because he now also wins a shot at the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against the reigning champion Kazuchika Okada, who is like the star of he's the John Cena, he's the ace, he's the Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And so that match is going to be great. Serious Sonata versus Okada, and I think Sonata should win. I think this is Okada's first defense since he won the title last summer, where he could, or no, he won it at Wrestle Kingdom, but he lost it last summer to Jay White. But I think he could win. I think he should win, and I think Five Guys should not sue just Five Guys. I think they should leave him alone.
I feel like they'll be okay.
Yeah,
because I don't think there's a risk of consumers confusing a Japanese wrestling faction with a burger chain.
I ate 5 people. I was so confused.
I just wanted a hamburger, and I flew all the way to Japan, and I tracked each of them down.
And I was still hungry. Oh, God, I was still hungry. Once you have the taste. Conversely, I went into a Five Guys and got my ass kicked. I thought I was trying to wrestle somebody. That's probably happened many times. I'm sure a lot of asses have been kicked.
In a Five Guys?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're not open late.
Do you think fewer asses have been kicked in Five Guys?
Then by the Five Guys?
I'm just trying to give you crap about fewer and less.
Oh.
But I couldn't hold it together.
I'm sorry that I grew up in a home.
And I grew up in a Five Guys. There is a little, outside of the office where I work, there is
you don't work in an office. Let's make one thing perfectly
outside
clear.
of the office I sneak into. There is a place that used to be called Five Guys Pizza, and then now it says Five Boys Pizza, because they had to change it.
Yeah.
Because of Five Guys, but that's different. It's a food thing.
Yeah.
Not 5 men.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm excited.
That's great. I'm happy for you.
Thank you so much.
Be so excited.
Thank you.
And
so,
I'm sorry that I gave you a note.
Just don't do it again. I'm just
won't.
kidding.
I never will.
You can give me notes. Yeah, another. So, wait, did you want to introduce maybe another topic?
Oh, we're including me in this conversation now?
I figured once. Once a quarter. It's spring. It's a new season.
I'm confused about this because, to be honest, I'm not on the edge of my seat for WrestleMania this year. I mean, when am I? But I'm not the biggest hype person for WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of WrestleMania, and I do think it's cool, and I do watch parts of it, but I don't pay massively close attention in the lead up because it's going to be what it's going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I thought I had seen, because you wrote here, which match should main event WrestleMania on night 1. But I thought I had seen that Rhea and Charlotte were going to main event night 1.
I had seen a rumor about that, but they have not as yet announced it.
They haven't announced
The only 2 matches they've confirmed which nights they'll be on are Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. They said it'll be on night 1. And Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for the world titles. That'll be night 2.
If Logan Paul main events something and Rhea Ripley doesn't, I will lose my mind.
I don't think that's on the table, and I'm pretty sure that's not.
Are you sure?
I mean, I'm not. It's
Can
WWE, so
promise?
literally anything can happen, but not in the way that they like to say that. Literally anything bad can happen. Any stupid decision can happen. No, I think it would be between Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's title, or Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos for the tag team titles.
I think it should be Charlotte and Rhea, personally.
Yeah, I mean, Rhea Ripley does deserve that spot, and Charlotte is very Roman Reigns pre-bloodline. She just is high up the card. She's kind of a John Cena because she doesn't really change ever.
No, they just push her.
Yeah, but she is an established star.
Yeah.
And she will put on a good match.
Look, we're all an established star, okay?
Yeah, everybody here is an established name.
Yeah.
Um,
we all have brand recognition.
Yeah. But there is something to be said for the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus Usos thing. This is like one of the best stories I've seen.
I mean, it was
WWE.
I don't want to shade it because I know everybody loves it. I know you might lose your shit at me, but I mean, it was a good story. But I feel like they told it.
Well, I think the story is not just that Sami Zayn and the Bloodline thing. I think the full story is like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn becoming friends again. And the end of it would be them winning the tag team titles together.
Yeah, I guess that would be a nice little end to it. But I guess, like, in my mind, like the Kevin Owens thing was important because it was part of the turning point where Sami finally turned on Roman.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I just kind of felt like that was the main crux of it, was Sami and Roman. And because that's not something that can be told, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I have a firm opinion on this. I just feel like I've lost a little bit of steam for that story.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely could have been like, I think some people have felt that way. There definitely could have been a natural end to it with Sami, like, conquering Roman Reigns. But I do actually really like the whole friendship thing. It feels like a Pixar movie to me. It's like, winning the championship is less important than, like, repairing your relationships with the people that are important to you.
Yeah, I don't like Pixar though. Like, this is a famous thing about me,
true.
Is that I really
I just use Pixar as, I just mean like an animated, like,
it's not. I should clarify. It's not that I don't like Pixar. It's that I eventually grew weary of Pixar's emotional manipulation gimmick, where they, going into a Pixar movie that they're going to make you cry. And they're going to make you cry by looking you in the eye and going, you'll never be a child again and everyone you love is going to die. Isn't that sad? Over and over again?
Wow.
And you're like, yes, it is sad. I don't know what else you want me to do.
That's what you got out of A Bug's Life? I remember that.
That was pre my feeling this way.
Yeah.
No, I think it was Inside Out that turned me on them.
Yeah,
because I was like, this is just pure them making me sad because they know that that's what they got to do in the Pixar game.
Well, what's funny is that's what wrestling is emotional manipulation.
I know, but I appreciate it with wrestling, I think, because it's more straightforward that that's what it is. Like, this is what I've always liked about wrestling, is that, like, it ironically used to be very much about lying to people, and now it is still about lying to people, but in a way that everyone knows is happening. It's like, true. Everybody knows what's up. Like, everyone's a smark, and so I don't feel like they're thinking that I'm dumb. I mean, that's arguable. But I would say on the whole, the relationship doesn't make me feel like I'm being treated like an idiot. Whereas with Hollywood, sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, oh, these guys think I am a mark and I'm just here to be.
I mean, Hollywood definitely
worked.
Hollywood definitely thinks you're a mark.
Yeah. Whereas wrestling knows I'm a smark.
Yeah, sometimes wrestling will give you a little bit.
Yeah, wrestling knows that I know what's going on, and so they're going to put a lot into it. I don't know. I'm just saying, I think the Bloodline stuff without the Roman Sami finale is a little, I don't know. It doesn't entice me as much as it did. But, that's me. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Do you think there's enough of a story with Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, or are you just focusing on the match?
Well, I think Rhea herself is kind of a story.
Yeah.
I think, like, Rhea represents, like, I think that the WWE hasn't put much into it being a story, but I think, like, I can create a story in my head right now that works, which is that, like, Charlotte represents kind of like the WWE establishment, because she does. She's the daughter of Ric Flair. She's Vince's idea of what a woman wrestler should be. She's blonde, she's tan, she's got the boobs, she's like hot, and Rhea, who is also like hot. I'm not saying that she's not hot.
Yeah, what the hell? What kind of podcast is this? We're not saying which ladies are hot.
Yeah, okay, all the ladies are hot, all right?
Come on.
So, but like, Rhea, you know, she's not from like some powerful wrestling family. She's somebody who fully worked her way in and up.
Her dad's gonna listen to this and be like, "Oh."
Well, I mean, you know, she's not the daughter of Ric Flair. I know. Like, yeah, I mean, she's literally someone who worked her way up in the industry and overcame a lot of like, you know, I don't want to call it prejudice, but like, you know, she's somebody who doesn't necessarily fit the traditional mold of being like the cute, like, you know, bubbly, like cheerleader blonde that they have historically championed there, or Playboy bunny that they have historically championed there as a women wrestler. So when I watch it, I know that's not the story that they've written, but that's kind of the story I've projected onto it. And I think that is a kind of a compelling conflict, in the sense that I honestly don't know who will win, because it's like,
it's true.
You know, literally it's up in the air.
It's very feels like a John Cena. It feels like a lot of the John Cena matches with the indie stars of like the the 2010s. Like his feud with CM Punk felt this way, although that was much more overtly like called out, or his feud with like Daniel Bryan or AJ Styles. Every time he fought one of those guys, it felt like, oh my God, please let them win. I don't know if they're going to. So it feels like that. And the Rhea Ripley thing is, you know, I agree, there is like a story. That's a lot of WWE, is just you projecting, headcanoning your own story onto truly like 0% of a narrative.
And I feel like part of me is worried that like the reason they haven't gone that angle at all, because it's almost kind of strange that they haven't, because that is the thing to make fun of Charlotte for if you're promoting against Charlotte.
It seems like maybe she doesn't want them to.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Is like that's why I'm kind of worried about it, because I'm like, it feels like they don't want Charlotte to like fully be that kind of a heel where she could lose, you know? Like they want to leave it open for Charlotte to win and have that be a good thing. Like, you know.
It's so funny because where else does she have to go? Unless she completely overhauls her character, this is who she is. She's won every championship. There's nothing left for her to do. Yeah. So the only thing is she could be, I mean, say what you will about Cena, but he at least would let people talk shit to him and be like, I mean, he would always have to get the last word and all this stuff, but he at least would like let people acknowledge that he was a dynasty.
Yeah, and like Rhea's been doing some promos that like attempt some things.
Yeah.
You know, like the wanting Charlotte to fear her
stuff.
That
was a real good thing that I thought they should have just focused on that, where she was just like, everybody around here is afraid of me, but you are not afraid of me. And you weren't afraid of me. That's enough, especially for her like dark character.
It is, but that is enough, but it also like feels like the opening of you're not afraid of me because you're a spoiled little girl, and I'm going to show you, you know, like that you.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You know, like it kind of almost like it wants to happen so badly, because that is like literally their dynamic, and you know, it's you know, I want that story, but I'm just going to headcanon it and just pretend that that's the story. And then when Rhea loses, I'll be like, the Nepo baby won?
I think you can't have too many Nepo babies winning on this show, but no. I think I am confident that she will win, because I know it doesn't matter. Yeah. And Charlotte has defied the odds before, but she lost their last match at WrestleMania. So they had a match together at WrestleMania 36, the COVID WrestleMania. I mean, I guess every WrestleMania after that has been a COVID WrestleMania, but the one that was in lockdown with no people.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I've only seen that mentioned once in like their back and forth, like their last meetup.
Yeah.
And that also kind of worries me, because I'm like, why don't they want people to remember that?
Well, that's WWE. They do that all the time. There's like, I remember Triple H and The Undertaker had a match at WrestleMania 27. And you were like, it was like a joke. Like I was reading dirt sheet stuff, or it was like, it's like they had a match at WrestleMania 17 10 years prior that The Undertaker had won. And it was like, you weren't even allowed to like mention that match like backstage, like, because they had to like pretend that Triple H had never lost to him, basically.
You know?
So they love to create they're like anti-Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know?
Well, you know, I like, now that you put it that way, I know that we've chastised the WWE for like having no memory and all these things and making it feel like things don't matter. But at the risk of defending Vince McMahon's business strategy, I have to say, I can see the logic in doing that, Because what I imagine you don't want to do if you're a product like WWE that's ongoing all the time constantly is alienate new viewers.
It's true.
And make them feel like, oh, they missed so much. So they're
like
never going to fully... Exactly. Like, they're never going to fully appreciate it. Like, this is honestly, like... I think I'm coming to this realization because this is part of why I have stopped kind of watching the Marvel movies as much. Like, after Endgame, I kind of fell off watching them. And it's because it feels like if I don't watch all the series on Disney Plus, if I don't watch every single Ant-Man and every, that I won't get what's happening, or that I'll miss something and won't be able to fully appreciate it. And that just gives me enough of a thing that I'm like, oh, well, what's the point, Because sometimes there's so much content to watch nowadays. All you need is like half a reason to not watch something.
That's true.
And you get discouraged very quickly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I understand both sides of it, is what I'm saying. Like, I understand the wanting it to matter because you were there and you remember it and you care about it a lot, which I would feel that same way. But I also understand as a newer fan why they might not want to make people feel like they missed 10 years they'll never get back.
I mean, yeah, well, it could, those old, like, what previously happened can inform the stories and the characters. Because, there's, you can either have, like, this prestige drama where everything is important, like a Better Call Saul or something, where everything is, like, super important and it's, like, characters grow and change over time. And you have to watch the whole thing to, like, understand that. Or you can have, like, a cartoon, like a Saturday morning kids show where it's just like, these are the characters, like, we know basically what the characters are, and there's like sort of an ongoing story, but mostly it's just like, here's our adventure this week, here's our adventure this week, here's our adventure this week, and that's more probably what WWE is going for.
Yeah.
And both of them are valid
and I think
are things.
Also, there is a way that WWE could do it that doesn't alienate people, which is just to explain what happened.
Can just acknowledge, you don't have to like watch all this stuff. You can just, NXT felt like a Saturday morning cartoon in the good way. Like, when I first started watching it, I was like, oh, this, like, it was literally Sasha was like a mean girl, and I think she was with Charlotte, and I was like, oh, these are the mean ladies that are coming out, and this is their thing, and these is who they don't like.
She
and
made little girls cry.
She did. So, there's definitely different ways to go, but I haven't really decided. It'll probably be Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley. I would imagine. It has to be
Charlotte Rhea Ripley night one of WrestleMania. If it's Logan Paul,
it's not going to be Logan Paul. It's going to be Charlotte Rhea Ripley or Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos. I think they're both. I think they're both
Logan Paul.
Well, then I'm selling all my WWE stock.
Oh no, not your stock.
I'm just kidding. I would buy a bunch, but they but I think either one would be a valid main event, but I think it's probably going to be Charlotte versus
I don't
Rhea
think
Ripley.
Logan Paul will be a valid main event.
I don't think so.
Am against that.
Me too.
If you've got 2 nights of WrestleMania, I'll say it right here. This is radical. This is crazy. This is going to make all the bros flip out and shit their pants.
Oh, God.
But I think you got 2 nights of WrestleMania. First night should be main evented by the ladies. Second night should be main evented by the dudes.
And never stray from that.
No.
The women shall never main event night 2.
No.
Last year it was, so 2 years ago was that, because it was Sasha and Bianca on night 1, and then Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and Edge on night 2. But then last year, the women did not main event night 1. But I think that was it was crazy circumstances because Steve Austin came back for a one-off match, so I think it was just in Texas specifically.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
It would have killed the crowd if they did it earlier.
What else would Steve Austin do with his night?
I know, but if you're going to do that match,
he's got nowhere else to go.
He doesn't. He just hangs around all the WWE shows. It's famous. But no, you could have killed the crowd because it would just people like that's what happened with Hogan and The Rock. Is you do that match early and then the crowd is dead for the last match, and then Triple H did it again a couple of years later. But anyway. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. I think it's probably going to be the SmackDown Women's title.
So let's talk about this AEW Dynamite International Championship.
It's what can I say? It's been leveled up. I've been making Shazam Fury of the Gods level up jokes all like for 2 weeks.
You love that sponsorship, and it didn't do well at the box office.
It's not. I knew it wouldn't because
which isn't great news for AEW's ad sales team.
Yeah, I mean, look, AEW held up their part of it. You know what I mean?
They did. They said it a lot. We were very aware that Shazam Fury of the Gods was coming out last week.
I don't think it was their fault. Black Adam didn't do
wasn't.
particularly well, so I figured everybody with these DC movies right now, it's sort of like, remember when Dark Phoenix came out after Disney had bought Fox? So they were like, everybody knew that the X-Men were going to be rebooted and reincorporated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
So like they were like, well, these were just like the ones that they were contractually, like that and New Mutants were the movies that they were just like contractually obligated to finish, but they knew they didn't matter or nobody cared. So like I think that's a similar thing with these, because they know James Gunn is going to be rebooting on the whole DC Cinematic Universe for the people that care. I think people are also kind of just over superhero movies in general, a lot of them. So those two things together.
Bad news for Disney.
Shazam was not. I mean, some of the superhero movies still make money. Batman made almost $1 billion. Spider-Man made $2 billion.
I'm sure they'll all make money.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how much money. Because now we live in a world where if your movie doesn't make $1 billion, it's considered a failure, which is crazy.
Yeah. My movie made $19 at the box office. Okay.
And I had dinner at Applebee's.
Yeah.
Half price apps late.
That's right. I had a tray of mozzarella sticks, and it was the best damn plate of mozzarella sticks I ever had.
All right, so we are talking about the AEW Dynamite International Championship.
Yeah, I was just going to say that apparently I was reading today, it's like a new championship. They did a weird so when you change the name of a championship.
Yeah, I noticed that because when they were doing it, they didn't describe Orange Cassidy as like the current. They described it as a match for the championship. And they didn't say he was defending it.
And usually when you change the name of a championship like that, the champion remains and the championship just changes names or whatever.
Yeah.
But this one, or you are like, the old one is done and that was a different championship. Now the new one is a new championship with a new lineage and all this stuff. AEW has done sort of the weirdest possible version of this, where if you look on the Wikipedia page and also AEW's like on their website, their championship history, it's the All-Atlantic Championship, and there's two champions, Pac and Orange Cassidy, and then it says that Orange Cassidy's title reign ended, and then a new title reign starts as the international champion, but it's like the same, it's instead of it being like two separate things, it's like one thing, and it changes and resets, which is the weirdest way to have done it. And it's kind of annoying to me.
Yeah.
So it's like technically two different titles.
Yeah.
But not. It's very strange. I mean, it probably only bothers someone like me who gets very particular about these things. Like most people will not care at all. But it bothers me. Although AEW fans, higher percentage of AEW fans would care about that than WWE fans.
That's true.
Because it's a lot more people like me.
Is it something I'm trying to think of why they would even want to do that. Is it anything to do with like saying that way you can say Orange Cassidy has had 2 championships?
Sure, but still then say like that was one title and this is a new title instead of just being like they're sort of different titles. Like you have to make a decision. TNA was going by TNA and Impact and couldn't decide what their name was for like truly like 7 years.
Yeah.
It took them so long to actually switch the name to Impact. I don't understand. WWE does that a lot too with like stuff where they just can't decide.
Ownership politics, didn't they?
They did, but it was even before that. They tried to like soft change it, and then they like you could tell like some of the wrestlers thought it was different, but not yet.
With this title, it feels like it is just a different thing because All Atlantic is like East Coast, right? Like Orange Cassidy was like the champion of the East, right? All Atlantic.
Basically, yeah.
So international's like international. It is a new title.
Yeah, I agree that it's fine if it's a new title. It just is like. I don't know why they aren't just like...
Why they didn't keep the All-Atlantic?
Or why they didn't just say the All-Atlantic. Basically, my whole gripe is just that there's not 2 Wikipedia pages. Like, you know what I mean? That it should be 2 different things. Because right now they're saying it's like... It's sort of the same thing. And then but then it resets, and now it's a new thing. But they're like sort of the same thing. And it's just like, well, one was one...
Maybe they wanted to honor people who had an attachment to the All-Atlantic Championship and not treat it like trash.
Maybe. Pac was really sad.
And be like, this mattered. It happened.
But the anti-WWE.
They were like, John, come here.
What?
Give me your hand. They were like this. They were like, John, we're going to get rid of the All-Atlantic Championship. But it mattered. It happened.
It mattered?
It's still on the wiki.
It mattered?
It still mattered. Yeah. but there's going to be a new title, okay?
Okay.
It's called the International Championship, okay?
International Championship.
You're hurting my hand.
Sorry, Tony.
Both of these titles matter.
Thank you.
But one is over. It ended.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you so much.
That's what Tony Khan did.
This was a rehearsal, a Nathan Fielder rehearsal.
It really is.
Where I had to talk to Tony Khan, and now I feel better.
Honestly, that's what Tony Khan should have done on Dynamite. He should have just sat down in like a softly lit room and been like, hello, everyone. Listen, take a deep breath with me, will you? We've made some changes. We're going to make some changes.
We made some changes. All right,
yeah, he's Mario now.
Yeah.
We made some changes.
It's
All right.
So
I renamed Gossip Corner.
Again?
Yeah.
This is now. We should change it every week.
Because I think it might be funny to call it Oh Shoot.
Oh Shoot.
Because that's what. I don't know. That's silly. Anyway, this week
Anne's giving herself notes now.
Oh Shoot. Our formerly Gossip Corner. This is where we talk about stuff that's a shoot.
Maybe.
Which means it's real.
Or we think it could be.
It could be real. Okay, go ahead. You put a bunch of stuff in
So
here.
MJF was parading. You pointed this out. MJF came out for his rebar mitzvah with 4 ladies all in completely different outfits. Which is very funny. It basically was, I could tell it was like a background casting thing where they were like, wardrobe is a black dress.
Yeah.
So bring your own black dress.
They clearly all had brought their own dress. And it was just, it was funny because they were sexy, but it was like sexy that a normal person would wear, like not like a sexy like stage it was like it was like
a normal, you would like somebody would wear that out.
Literally it was just normal looking women,
and it was just also funny that they weren't all the same dress, because it was like to come out with 4 people like that, it should be like a uniform situation. And so it was just 4 people, or have them be in totally different outfits, because having them be in like similar ones just again means that they brought their own thing from home.
It was camp. It was very camp because it was very. I mean, I don't think it was intentional camp. I think it was unintentional camp.
Well, there you
we
go.
are laughing at it. But yeah, it was funny though.
It was funny, but you pointed out that he like kissed one of them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You were like, do you think this is like aimed at his ex-fiancé?
Well, because here's the thing. He did a similar thing with girls who were all dressed the same in dresses once, who like came out with him on, I think he was on a throne or so. I can't remember.
I remember him being in the stands one time, and he had like a lady with him.
Well, I don't remember what this was, but it's a thing where he was with these women who were all in the same dress, and his fiance was one of the women.
Oh, okay.
And each one of them like came up and like gave him a little kiss, and then she was the last one, and he like Frenched her. But I don't think they acknowledged during that bit. Like I don't think the announcer said like that's his girlfriend, because they weren't engaged at the time. I think that she was just his girlfriend at the time. And this was basically the same thing where it's like each one of them is like bye, and then the last one he like makes out with, but the last one is no longer his girlfriend.
It'd be funny if he tried to put a different girl in last spot, and she was like, what?
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know if he was doing that at his ex. Breakups make people do crazy things,
especially when you're a professional wrestler with clearly an ego.
Yeah.
A sizable one.
Yeah.
It was expressed to me by a wrestler this past weekend that that most wrestlers are assholes.
That should be in Gossip Corner.
It should be in Gossip Corner, and we can transition right into it right now.
Yeah, we went to see GCW last week.
Game Changer Wrestling.
And we saw Eye for an Eye, which is their show that I think you can order probably on Fight right now.
Yeah, and they're also on Fight Plus, I think, so which is like $5 a month, and you can watch all the GCW shows.
But it was a great show. But we were standing around and we were talking about, did we think CM Punk would ever come back to wrestling?
Yes.
Because I think he will eventually, because I think he's too big a draw not to.
That's true.
And then you said at some point...
Look, CM Punk is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I still love him. It's really hard to I'm still very upset with him though over this whole All Out thing, because there's just no way to justify that whole rant. As compelling as he was to watch, because he always is.
Yes.
This is just no way that was unprofessional. It made him look bad. So anyway, I'm going off on this saying like, look, I've never met CM Punk, or I've never met CM Punk in person or something like that. And then immediately I say, I've never met CM Punk. And then one of the wrestlers from the first match who was walking by us stops and goes, I have.
Yeah.
He's an asshole.
Yeah.
Was exactly what he said.
It was pretty funny. He's like, I have met him as a wrestler and a fan.
Yes.
He is an asshole.
Yeah.
And then he kind of covered it for himself. Because I feel like we were all so stunned by the sudden interjection.
Yeah, I just wasn't expecting it. And also it was one of the wrestlers from the show, so I'm already like,
so our brains were all freezing up and trying to compute this information.
Yeah, the fourth wall has been broken.
I worry that maybe he read into that pause as like us being like, oh, we like CM Punk, because then he immediately went, all wrestlers are assholes.
Yeah, he was like, most wrestlers are assholes.
And then that sent my brain in even more of a freeze, because then I was like, but wait, he's a wrestler.
Yeah, I know. And he was a heel in the first match too. So I was like, oh man.
I like how we've basically identified this man. We won't say his name, but
no. I mean, he was really good.
If you watch Eye for an Eye in the first match and see the heels, he's one of them.
So anyway, but it was very funny. And I wasn't upset. I was happy to chat.
No.
I loved it. I loved
awesome.
that he did that. I'll never forget that guy.
We'll never forget that moment as long as we live.
And so, but yeah, but it wasn't news really. You know what I mean? Like, I know that these things, it's been, even before people got mad at him for All Out, it's been known, like, that's part of his gimmick. He embraced that he was in it. People used to have, I remember people going on Colt Cabana, his former friend's podcast all the time, and they would talk about CM Punk. And I remember, I think like Jay Lethal or something, like in a very jovial way, being like, or, a lot of people would talk about like, oh, I have my, CM Punk was an asshole to me the first time I met him, but then they would like move past it and be friends with him or whatever. And Jay Lethal was upset that he was nice to me the first time I met him, so I don't have that story. But yeah, it was, so, I mean, probably like most people, he's nice to some people, and not nice to others. No, or he's nice to his friends, or he has relationships that are good and relationships that are not. I think what a lot of it is probably ego, and then
how much time he's around people.
Yeah, and I think if he feels wronged, he just flips, and it's just you're dead to him basically.
Yeah.
You know what
well,
I mean?
Everybody's gimmick, as many have talked about, is yourself turned up to 11.
Yeah.
So he's probably very much like he is in the ring in real life.
Yeah, very opinionated.
Like
confident.
Suffers no fools, I assume. Like, probably says shit to people that if it's at the wrong moment on the wrong day.
Yeah.
And also people like that, sometimes when people like that become like famous, they don't always understand that they have power in every interaction that they're in.
It's true.
They think they're still just like some guy who can just say stuff to people, and they don't appreciate that, like, oh no, if I make this shitty comment to this guy, it's going to ruin his day.
Yeah. Or maybe his career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think he's like a bad person. I think he just has those issues. And also I think probably he really wanted to be a successful, famous WWE wrestler, right? He wanted to be the top of the game. It's really hard to be in that spot, and it can destroy you. You know what I mean? And I think that only made him probably worse with interacting with people, like all-day interactions with fans, because he's had a lot of really negative interactions with fans that weren't even on him. I mean, there was like that time, like people would take his earbuds out of his ear and all this stuff.
Well, did you see the Rey Mysterio thing recently?
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And how WWE is actually going to institute a policy that people don't sign.
Are they going to institute a policy? I read that they were going to just people were deciding not to do that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, it's something where now I think WWE I don't know if this has always been in place, but I was reading that WWE superstars now are signing action figures and stuff. Like anything that looks like it's going to be like they can sell 8x10s or whatever, or sign 8x10s, but that's it. I think I don't think they're allowed to sign merch of any kind.
I think I was really pretty disgusted with the way those guys tried to represent that.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to bully him. They were trying to bully him into doing it. And also bully other people in the future into doing it. Like, if you don't want to get canceled or whatever, then you should sign the stuff for us. And it was so obvious, and it was especially shitty to do it to somebody, because also Ray, he was like, I'll sign one for you, which is like way nicer than he even had to be.
Yeah.
And some of these people bring kids with them to be like, oh, it's for the kid. And it's like these 20 Funko Pops on a board. They're nailed to a board.
They do that to people all the time. Like, I've seen that happen to Matt Berry with What We Do in the Shadows stuff.
Yeah,
like,
and
I've
he
seen
really
guys
doesn't want to
come up
interact
with, like,
with anybody.
Yeah, it's nuts. All right, shall we move on to the next little gossip thing?
Yeah, so this is a quick one, but it just was, I saw they had Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio versus Santos Escobar and Zelina Vega in a mixed tag team match on SmackDown. And I was like, oh, both of those women are in relationships with guys from the House of Black in AEW, because Rhea Ripley is dating Buddy Matthews and Zelina Vega is married to Malachi Black.
I saw a clip of Rhea fighting somebody on a house show recently because she had like no makeup on, and it was great. And it was just great. That's all.
Yeah. So that was just a fun little thing.
All right.
And then, I mean, this, I don't know how long we'll talk about this, but I figured we should bring it up. Bray Wyatt, what's going on with him? He's maybe hurt. Maybe he's is creative. I mean, I'm pretty, like, he hasn't been on TV.
Yeah.
They've kind of like even dropped this Uncle Howdy
thing. He's still going to be at WrestleMania, according to sources. Sources say.
I mean, they have like, what, tonight's? Well, they have like a SmackDown this week, and then one more next week to like do anything with him. I mean, they could just have him show up. It's not, but
yeah.
I don't know what. I don't blame him if he's burnt out or doesn't really care, because honestly, I struggle to think of anybody as high up the card as him, as prominently featured as him in WWE, that has had this many terrible stories and like, I want to say matches, but they're not really his fault. It's not like he's bad at wrestling.
They just like either don't want to use him or don't know how to use him.
I think they don't know how.
And I think part of it is because his character is a really rated R character. Like, his character is like a scary person.
Yeah, that's true.
And they have a PG product. And I feel like it's just a situation where there's not much you can do with like Freddy Krueger in a PG movie. You know what I mean? Like, there's just not. Like,
Freddy Summer Vacation.
Like, I mean, you can do a little bit, but eventually it just wears thin. And I feel like that's what's happened to him, is like he's this character and this persona that is very dark and scary, and it's great when he's able to do it, but he's just not been able to do it. Like I was rewatching the thing with Danielson when he pulls him under the ring and takes his hair, which is as we all know, my favorite favorite moments in professional wrestling. Yeah. But like, I was watching that because I was like, this is so good, and it's so weird they've never done anything else like this since. But like, it's because they did it. They did it. Like, they did that, and he probably needs performers who are willing to do stuff like that with him.
Yeah.
And
LA Knight's not going to shave his trademark locks.
Right. Like, but even so, like, I don't know that it would always be good for him to always be stealing people's hair or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, it's just like, like, I was watching it and I was like, oh yeah, because this is like a really scary thing. But it's like PG. Like, he's stealing his hair.
Yeah.
Like, if that was happening in another promotion where we were able to do something really messed up, you'd see bloods coming out of that hole, and you'd see body parts and stuff, You'd see like
cut off his legs.
Yeah, you'd see something messed up, But they can't do that at WWE. So it's almost like they did all the stuff they could do within the PG rating with The Fiend. And now they're just like flailing, trying to think of other things for him to do, but there's just not much. It's like black lights and Mountain Dew. I don't know, like,
it was a pretty bad sign when his first match back was a corporate sponsorship match.
Yeah,
and they're doing QR codes, like creepy. It's just. I
think he probably needs to be in a promotion that can let him do messed up things.
Yeah, that can let him do anything like that,
yeah.
Or just be a dark version of a real person. Because if he does that, if he dials it back a little bit or so, I mean, I don't know, like Undertaker was spooky and creepy, but it always worked. I don't know why. I mean, Undertaker also was around for a while, and so like he garnered a lot of respect. I mean, people like Bray Wyatt. He's always over. He always gets big reactions, and people always are willing to hope. I have seen so many times when people get excited for him to challenge for a title or excited for him to come back, and like they always have that hope because they know he's a good performer and they like him and he's very charismatic.
Yeah.
they just every time it gets squandered. I don't know.
I wonder if it's because like, you know, Undertaker had like Kane and all these people around him that were like game for his shtick. And
he was around for a long time before Kane showed up.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that like that adds to the longevity of it when you have people who are like kind of game part of your cinematic universe that you're building for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering if Bray has that, you know.
And he used to have it, and maybe there were better matches back then when he had that, because I mean there are a few really strong matches that he had in the beginning, but then it just evolved.
Well, yeah, because also when you think about like a promotion, a wrestling promotion in general, like it's what I talk about with the women all the time. It's like if there's no room for a character in however many stories they have going, then there's no room for that character because there's only so much time on the show and there's only so many stories that they have. And it's like, and I feel like that might be informing some of this because it's like they've got the bloodline stuff, you know, they've got Sami Zayn. They've got Austin Theory. They've got, you know, like this
big
stuff.
Money Austin
and it's
Theory.
like where, you know, it's almost like I feel like Bray has to find a place in one of those stories in order for him to be part of what's happening. Because on his own, he's just on his own and he doesn't have anywhere to go.
He doesn't have any feuds going. I mean, LA Knight was a fine attempt at a feud, and LA Knight is a perfectly serviceable performer. But it just was. It just seems so. I think I really liked it when he first came back, and it felt like a reset. And he was himself, and he was speaking from the heart. And then immediately they go into the spooky, weird stuff. And not only do they go into the spooky, weird, silly stuff, it's more of the spooky, weird, silly stuff that has no progression or payoff.
And they never. And like that was also weird because like when they brought him back, like he did the promo himself. And then they had all those people in masks, leading us to believe that there was like a whole faction coming.
Yeah. And maybe there was, and then they were like, well.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, that was hopeful because it's like, yes, this is what he needs. He needs a whole faction. He needs people to interact with who can
like
keep up with what he's doing.
That rejuvenated Roman Reigns' career.
Right. Like wrestlers, no wrestler can stand alone. They have to have someone to fight or partner with. Like they need somebody, and he doesn't have anybody.
I thought about that with like recently where I was just like, oh, you know, wrestlers like to talk about themselves, you know, in a way that like a musician or somebody would be like, you know, I'm the best and I'm the, you know, all this stuff. And it's like, but they literally cannot do it.
They literally can't do it alone.
A musician could do it by themselves. I mean, they usually have a band or some people that they work with, but they could do it on their own. A comedian could do it on their own. Actors generally don't do it on their own, but they could. I mean, you can do a monologue or whatever.
Everybody needs somebody.
You need somebody, but like wrestlers, you literally cannot do it by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, people have, and it's a novelty match, but like, you literally need another person to do it with.
And he doesn't seem to have anybody around him that's like part of what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that's like, what do you even do with that, you know?
And everything's really silly.
Yeah.
And like you said, it can't ever be.
You know, you put him up against like Bobby Lashley, and that's fine, but Bobby Lashley's not part of what he's doing, you know? Bobby Lashley's not part of this scary
Bray
world.
Wyatt's not even part of what he's doing at this point.
Yeah, like he needs to be part of something, and it's just not. They just don't have anything for him to be part of right now. Maybe that'll change. Hopefully that'll change.
Or he'll leave and retire and go do something else. I don't know. He could be an actor. All right, so we'll move on to the promo of the week.
Promo of the week.
I picked your favorite stuff, the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes stuff, because it was really, I thought, very touching, and it was just Kevin Owens being like Sami Zayn was just like and you know, I heard to give it to WWE, but I love these guys.
I know.
And it was a nice thing for Cody, because a lot of times WWE babyfaces are like the worst people in the world. They're just like bullies. They don't care about anybody. They have no relationships. They're very conceited and they're like elitist. Cody Rhodes is probably all of those things, but I like that his character, like, he called out Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to try to mediate a thing, because he was like, you guys are friends. Like, this is, I mean, there could be ulterior motives that he just wants to take the bloodline down to make Roman Reigns weaker, but it was nice to see him caring and also trying to shift focus away from himself and they did a good job. I mean, they're basically just trying to make sure Cody doesn't get booed. For people wanting it to be Sammy instead. But I just think it makes somebody more likable when they're like trying to mediate something like that and caring about other people. And then the Kevin Owens Sammy stuff is great, because Sammy's like, look, we don't have to be friends. We just should, you know, come together to take out the bloodline. And then Kevin Owens has just not acknowledged why he's like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And then he was like, why would why would I want to fight with somebody who doesn't want to be my friend? So it was the thing where Sami Zayn was like, we don't have to be friends. And then Kevin Owens is like hurt by that. We didn't know it. I know you think this is bad or whatever.
No,
but
I'm waiting to say something.
I know
I'm
you want
waiting for you to finish.
Yeah. So I just think it was really touching. And it's also just to like, I know we're going to make fun of it now, but it's very like,
I'm not gonna make fun of it.
We don't get stuff like this a lot in wrestling.
Yeah.
I know people say it's a soap opera and all that stuff, but it really kind of isn't. And it almost never is. And it's just really, especially because they are really close friends, it's like touching to see that stuff.
Yeah.
And then they had some follow-ups throughout the night, and then it was really good. And then at the end, Cody Rhodes is like, they hug, and it was really very meaningful to me as somebody who's been watching them together for a long time, or Kevin Steen, and, I watched El Generico, so it was really, it's very similar. He reminds me a lot of Sami Zayn, and I think they were all friends. But anyway, it was Cody Rhodes was like looking on at the end, like a Obi-Wan Kenobi at the end of Return of the Jedi, just like smiling.
That's
anyway,
nice.
Go on.
Oh, I get to talk now. No, I was just going to make a joke, a silly offhand joke that I think it's nice that you're so inspired by the fact that this guy in an American flag suit came up to two other white guys and went, "We should really wipe out this bloodline."
Yeah. Well, Gunther is my favorite. Gunther is my favorite wrestler, so
yeah.
It tracks. He wasn't wearing an American flag suit. It's worse.
Oh, what was he wearing?
He's got an American flag skull tattoo on his neck.
Right. Yeah, he does.
It's
have
worse
that.
than that.
He does.
He's
have
got
that.
a cop tattoo.
But doesn't
okay?
he
wears nice regular suits.
He's been wearing some of those weird. He wears those like Captain
suits.
America stuff sometimes in the ring. I've seen him in like a ring jacket. That's
ring jacket. But he was wearing a regular suit. He was wearing a business suit.
Okay, fine. He was ready for a job interview.
Yeah, he was ready for a job interview. He had to go to a job interview, right? Just in case WrestleMania doesn't work out.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know.
Yeah, the white guys are trying to get together and they're trying to take out the people of color. Yes,
wipe
that's
out
what's
the
going
bloodline
on.
Of people of
These
color.
Entitled, that's what's going on.
Yeah,
so yes, it looks bad.
It does.
When
look
you
bad.
say it like that, it looks bad.
It does.
At least two of them are French Canadian. Okay, that feels a little less intimidating.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, there's never been a French Nazi. Anyway, I'm just kidding, y'all. I think it's a fun story, and I'm glad that you like it.
No, you don't. You said you didn't like it. All right.
No, I don't. I don't know. I try to have a take because that's why we have a podcast, so we can share takes.
I just know that once this
story...
And
I know you're going to like it, so I try to offer the alternative viewpoint.
I just know that once this story is over, that's it. There's not going to be other stories.
The wrestling.
Well, maybe they'll have Roman Reigns, but I've been watching this for a long time.
No, I know.
There's not stories like this.
No,
so once this is over, it's done.
I can feel it.
It's going to be back to we didn't book a show on Raw.
No,
you know
I
what
know. I know. I'm just saying that I can feel that when people talk about it, that's important to them for that reason. That they're happy that there's finally a story.
And also, I like everybody in it, and I think Jey Uso is going to come out of this like a rock star.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my pick.
Well, that was good. See.
I thought you were gonna say the thing which was also funny about it being like Real Housewives. It's like, why would I want to work with somebody who's not my friend, who doesn't want to be my friend?
Oh yeah, that's also what it feels like. It's very Real Housewivesy.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of wrestling is. I mean, I know you just said it's not often a soap opera, but I think there's a lot of stuff that's about like. You need to be accountable, and you're my friend, not my friend.
I don't think it shouldn't be a soap opera. I just think that WWE
no,
specifically.
I didn't say you said that. I'm saying
often
that
doesn't have stories.
Yeah.
So there's imagine a soap opera which just every week it was a different reset.
Yeah, no, I know.
And that would be the
Okay, so let me do my pick now. My pick was MJF's Rebar Mitzvah on Dynamite, which. I picked not because I thought it was the best promo of the week. I'm going to be honest with you. Although I did like the Sammy Guevara insult where he says, you're going to propose to another girl in 7 months.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. But because for me, these awards are about the things we want to talk about the most, not necessarily what's best, right? And I think that the reason I want to talk about MJF's Rebar Mitzvah.
I would love if they did the Oscars like that. So we're giving the Oscar to this movie, but only because we want to talk about it. So here's
exactly.
What
I mean... Really?
Yeah.
But how else do you judge the goodness of art? But the MJF Rebar Mitzvah thing really crystallized a lot of like what's been going on with MJF for me lately, which is that like it's just interesting to watch him kind of explore what he's doing, because he's the first of a lot of things. Like he's one of the first like Jewish professional wrestlers who's acknowledging that in a real way. He's one of the only people at AEW who's like a cool heel who rarely breaks kayfabe. And so it's interesting to watch him like navigate this, because it's like watching someone discover something new every time he does something. And with the Rebar Mitzvah, it was one of those things that like, you know, when he pitched that to somebody, they went, oh yeah, that's fun, let's do that. And then when they actually did it, I was sitting next to you, and you heard me like laughing a laugh of panic, because it was like
a laugh I know all too well.
It was very much something that felt super anti-Semitic.
Yeah, and
in a way that was like, oh no, but like it didn't register until they're doing the horror in the ring and the crowd is booing it. And my brain went through so many emotions, because boos to a heel are cheers, right? But are they booing him, or are they booing the Judaism? Like your brain can't. It's hard to calculate. There's a lot of math going on here, but at the end of the day, what you came out with was an image of people booing the horror.
Yeah,
and another friend of mine pointed out the blue and white balloons are evocative of Israel, which is a whole other thing.
Because when people are criticizing Israel, it's a similar thing. Some of them are not just criticizing Israeli foreign policy.
Yeah, so like it was really interesting, because I feel like he's gotten himself into a place where, I don't know if he realizes this, but I feel like his thing about anti-Semitism and talking about being Jewish was driven by AEW's desire to be part of like the white liberal progressive internet culture of wrestling fans, because that works really well there. But like, what they didn't think about was that his character is a jerk, but his character is a jerk separate from the fact that his character is Jewish. But in the Rebar Mitzvah, they marry these two things.
Because the first time he brought it up was during the CM Punk thing, which was in a way to humanize him.
Right. It was supposed to be the thing that made us like him more.
And people reacted to it in a good way, in a positive way.
And now he's like performing his religion as a person people are supposed to boo. And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a thing. As someone who's
done,
not
something that should be done again.
As people have done a lot of creative stuff, I think we could both identify what you said was that, oh yeah, in the pitch meeting this sounded really good, and even in the writing we thought this would work, and then only on stage doing it, getting the reaction from the audience, do we realize how fundamentally flawed this was.
Yeah. And I mean, there was like, even in the lead up to it, I was a little worried about this, because I was like, how's this gonna work?
Religious.
Because again, his Judaism and his heelness are two different identities that he's got. And really, if he wants to be like a heel, he can just lean into being a jerk from Long Island who's rich. Like, it doesn't have to be about him being Jewish. But like when you foreground his Judaism, it's and he's not a babyface. It's bad news. It's bad news.
Yeah, and it's just like that thing of there's even in the AEW audience, which is like the most progressive wrestling, one of the most progressive wrestling audiences you're gonna find. There's probably a lot of at least hidden anti-Semitism in there. Yeah, and so you're giving them a reason to. It's just like it doesn't really work.
Yeah. No, it's not. It just didn't work. But it was, like I said, very interesting to see, because you sometimes you can't know something until you try. Yeah. And they tried, and now we know. Hopefully they don't try
so
again.
They never do it again.
Another thing I liked about it though was when the Pillars came out.
Yeah, the 4 Pillars.
Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Jungle Boy came out to interrupt his Rebar Mitzvah, because they're the biggest anti-Semites in the biz.
All 4 of them.
He put on a hat. He put on a fuzzy bucket hat. And it was just perfect because I was like, this is a man who understands he has to draw focus from these people without talking. And the only way to do that is to put on a silly hat.
Yep. And it worked.
And it worked.
It was a fuzzy Burberry bucket hat.
I mean, this is it's just so fun to watch MJF because you really are watching an artist work in real time. You're watching somebody who knows the business, but they're also young enough that they're still discovering things and they're doing things the same but also differently enough that they are going to like fail in that way but also succeed in really exciting ways. And that was a perfect example of that. Like the Rebar Mitzvah I felt like was a fail in a oh god kind of a way, and then the hat was like a success in a really exciting way.
He could have just come out with the hat.
He could have just worn the hat.
And then it would have been fine. So next time, sometimes, you don't
But this roller coaster I'm on with him, I'm on it.
It was great. And also, I mean, I really enjoyed the Four Pillars thing because they said that a while ago and they never really acknowledged it again. And now it's like, oh, yeah, let's have these guys have a four-way match.
Yeah.
That's a great special Dynamite main event.
Yeah.
I mean, it could main event a pay-per-view, but I don't think it'll last.
It hasn't been built up enough.
No, well, it's also the pay-per-view is too far away. It's like 2 months to the next pay-per-view. I don't want to stretch this out. Do it on Dynamite.
Right.
But yeah, everybody sounded pretty good in that. I mean, Jungle Boy actually sounded so much better than he's ever sounded. He's really improved a lot.
Jungle Boy was great.
I think working with Christian has helped him a lot because Christian's one of the best talkers in the business. So I think that's helped him a lot. Darby Allin doesn't take notes. He dropped out of film school because he got notes on his student film.
Yeah.
And it was also like he was like, Darby, we don't accept this kind of film here. So I guess Darby Allin made a porn.
Yeah. Okay, so we can talk about matches of the week now.
Yeah, so you can go first here.
My first is one we saw at GCW. Well, they're both
GCW.
GCW matches that we saw in person. I really liked Rina Yamashita and Sawyer Wreck against the former GCW Tag Team Champions Miedo Extremo and Ciclope.
Yeah.
Because it was an intergender tag team match that was really cool. At one point, they had 2 doors propped up on 4 chairs, and they went through both of them at the same time. I mean, there were some really great spots. And also, Rina and Sawyer are just great performers. Miedo and Ciclope are also great. They were all having fun. They all, were into it. High energy, exciting. It was great.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Great match. And I love that GCW does intergender stuff, which I think a lot of wrestling promotion should do.
And I thought they did the intergender really well, where it wasn't like depressed at any point, which we'll talk about with your pick.
Yeah, so I picked Nick Gage versus Masha Slamovich because I think it was an important match.
It was.
She's the first female now GCW world champion. And so she's the first woman who's ever held this title, I believe. And even if not, it has not happened in a long time that I know of. And so I thought that I thought she did a great job. It did get a little uncomfortable after a while because,
it made me feel a lot of things.
It made, there were better matches on the show. It wasn't a bad match. And actually,
it
was
wasn't
honestly,
bad at
this
all.
is probably the best Nick Gage match, like that isn't like a death match because he just wrestled a regular match. I was impressed that he was able to, he couldn't help her in a lot of things that like, the way that you would want to help somebody that you're wrestling.
He can't lift his legs
He couldn't really go help her with the pile driver, so she had to just kind of muscle him through the pile driver.
Which was impressive on her part.
Oh, yeah. No, she's great.
She picked him up.
She's very strong and young and everything and can do that, but she, it still is, it's hard to do a pile driver just through brute force for anybody. But yeah, I was impressed that he did that match, but another fundamental flaw that you don't think about probably until you're out there is what you want in this match, or what they were trying to go for, was for her to be getting beaten down, basically, and make like a babyface comeback. There's a lot of things that can come from this, where it's like, I hate doing the domestic violence comparison to intergender wrestling because I don't think that we should focus on that, but sometimes it kind of looks that way. And also, Nick Gage is too popular for this. What you need is a heel like Blake Christian. Everybody was shitting on him the whole time, and he was loving it, soaking it up. So like, honestly, that probably would have been like my one of my honorable mentions is Blake Christian versus Jack Cartwheel from this show. But we're somebody that you can just like, he can be beating her up, crowd is hating him, cheering for Masha.
Yeah.
But in this one, the crowd was split because people like Masha. People were excited for it.
I
It
would
was a
say,
supportive crowd,
honestly, like, the crowd didn't even feel totally split to me. It felt like the crowd was for Nick.
Yeah.
And there were Masha fans in the crowd, mostly probably her family, and then a bunch of women like me who were like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, and there were some Masha fans there, too. But that which for me was why, like, I understood the structure of what they were doing. And I did have faith that she would win at the end because she was really being put through hell.
Yeah.
But it's just like, and this is an example of wrestling making you feel all the feelings, because I was like standing there trying not to get really angry because like guys would yell things and you'd be like, fuck that guy, you know, you like, I want, like, you know, you get to a point where you're like, I'm not gonna start a fight in a wrestling crowd.
And then that wrestler came up, he was like, I have.
Yeah, no, but it's like, you know, it was so emotional. It was very emotional. But
it was, I mean,
I thought it was a good match. I don't have problems with it. It
almost
just
in a weird way,
it put me through a lot.
In a weird way, it was almost more progressive because they like didn't.
It was challenging.
They weren't like booing. They weren't booing her because she was a woman or being sexist. They were almost just treating her as just like, I mean, this is another wrestler that they just didn't like as much as Nick Gage. It was a weird, I don't know, it's very weird, but it just was, Nick Gage is just way too beloved, especially at GCW, to get people to support her. And I think she'll be fine going forward. And it wasn't even like people cheered when she won.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't like people didn't turn on it.
She got a "You deserve it" chant and everything.
Yeah,
like,
no, everything was fine. And there was it wasn't like anything overtly sexist
it was
or anything.
Fine.
It was, you know, it was like GCW is like ECW with a millennial crowd instead of a Gen X crowd, so they're a little more.
There's just like an energy.
Yeah.
That you feel.
Yeah.
And you're like, I know what this is.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, luckily it all worked out. But I thought it was a great match too.
It was good. I mean,
I almost picked that one, but then I decided to pick the Rena Sawyer match because that one didn't put me through so much.
Yeah, I think, and there were other matches on that show that I even liked more than that. Like I said, that Blake Christian Jack Cartwheel match, that Time Splitters versus the Jersey J Cup finalists match was great. A lot of matches were great. Shout out to Willie Mack for getting kicked in the face. By the way, in that one, he took a boot right to the face, and then you could tell Tony Deppen felt really bad.
Yeah.
But everybody was fine. Both those guys are great.
Yeah.
But yeah, they or at least it seemed like everything was fine. But yeah,
we should move quickly.
Okay, so let's do our nerd fantasy booking.
I didn't really have one this week, so I just wrote Muppets. I think the Muppets
have been on Raw.
I'm sure they've been on wrestling. Yeah. I want Muppets. I think Muppets should be in wrestling more.
I would watch a whole match wrestled by Muppets.
Yeah.
I was going to say because Goldberg is now a free agent and Tony Khan is like hopefully trolling people about signing him because like WCW. So here's my nerd fantasy booking. If we must sign Goldberg versus Jade Cargill. They have the same gimmick.
That would be good.
Jade Cargill should beat him. She
could kill him.
She could, and she should. And the other thing I was pitching is that they should, we have to bring in Goldberg if they want to honor WCW, have Goldberg squash Chris Jericho in this match that they were supposed to do like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And then just get him out of there.
Yeah.
Because we don't need him.
That's great. All right. So the last thing we'll do is history lesson. Which I, in the past, have said I was going to bring in a women's history fact all through Women's History Month, but I say screw that because I want to talk about something else, and also women's history can go all year. We don't need it just to be in March.
And you're sexist. You're
and
a huge
I'm horribly
misogynist.
sexist. No, but they're adding Andy Kaufman to the WWE Hall of Fame.
That's right.
So I thought we could talk about Andy Kaufman for a minute. Because I was rereading all about that and rewatching a bunch of stuff today because I was covering it for work, and Andy Kaufman was a wrestler. That's what I've decided.
Is that? Oh yeah, he was.
I'm like this man, because he never wanted to be called a comedian. He hated being called a comedian. He called himself like a song and dance man. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, no, this man was a wrestler.
You could tell that he had like season ticket. He had like a lifetime like backstage pass to WWF.
Yeah. Like Andy Kaufman was a wrestler in the way that I want wrestlers to be. Like
he was very
he just
very
was
like
it.
MJF. He was a very committed. He was super committed to kayfabe in everything.
Mm-hmm.
in all of his stuff. That's why also he didn't want to be a comedian. Or
I mean, basically what he did was professional wrestling, literally, for most of his. It's like, and that's why he made such an impact, because he brought that like mindset to the regular entertainment business, and people didn't know how to deal with it. But it's like, you know, obviously Jerry Lawler knew how to deal with it because he knew exactly what Andy was doing. And it was it's kind of beautiful to like look back at that and be like, oh, he found his people is what happened.
Yeah. I mean, he wanted to be a wrestler, and he, you know, I mean, you could tell he wanted to. And that's why Andy Kaufman reminds me of a lot of like Brooklyn alt comics, you know, like in the type of, you know, sort of anti-comedy that he did. But also that he's a little wrestling nerd. You know what I mean? So many of those people are huge wrestling nerds, but we're not, you know, I'm the most alt comic there is. I'm so avant-garde. Yeah. Totally experimental. And so, you know, it's very, it's just very funny to see that. And he just was, he was one of the first big celebrities, I think, that was involved in wrestling.
Well, because he was around before WWF was.
He was
like
pre-Hogan. He was all pre-Hogan.
He was pre all that stuff. I mean, the Lawler stuff was before.
And
Hogan.
It was in Memphis. It was never in WWF.
Yeah, the Lawler stuff was probably the first time wrestling was like on national television.
He pioneered the way for celebrities to come into wrestling, is what happened. Yeah. And so what we've decided is that thank you, Andy Kaufman, for paving the way for Logan Paul to main event WrestleMania nights
Andy.
1 and 2.
Don't put that on him.
I think he's gonna win. He's gonna do so well.
No, Andy, we forgive you for that. It's not your fault.
We forgive you, Andrew.
I wonder what he would think of Logan Paul. I don't even want to get into it.
I feel like he would be into it. I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know.
If Andy Kaufman could see the state of the world today, I don't even want to think about what his reaction would be.
Yeah, good or bad, honestly. I don't want him to go through it or to see what he would support. I don't need it. I don't need to. Yeah. I don't need to know.
All right. Well, that's our show this week.
That's our show.
We'll do more next week, probably.
You can't stop us.
You can't. Literally, we don't even know you.
Yeah.
Unless we do, and then text us, and maybe we'll stop.
Maybe we'll consider it.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.